Every time I have ever stepped foot on a plane, I can't help but to feel nervous and pray to God that I make it to my destination safely. And it seems like recently there's been a lot of news stories about planes not only crashing, but also disappearing. The Daily Mail released a updated article regarding the Black Hawk crew colliding with the airplane, killing 67 people. I hope I'm pronouncing names correctly in the article, so forgive me, but it says the Black Hawk was performing a routine training mission in an effort to renew 28-year-old Captain Rebecca M. Lobach's annual certificate when it crashed into American Airlines Flight 5342 while making its final descent at Reagan National Airport just before 9 p.m. on January 29th, killing 67 people. Now, this was actually my son's birthday, so I was celebrating, and then the news broke out about this happening. Again, this was later in the evening, so we were just settling down. Investigators probing the crash have been focused on whether the soldiers on board were wearing the nighttime visual aid when the collision took place. Quote, "We do believe, given the mission and given what we've heard or not heard on the CVR cockpit voice recorder, that they were wearing night vision goggles. Military helicopters can turn off the ADS-B during continuity of government missions so that nobody can track where government officials are being flown. But Cruz, a Republican from Texas, said that this was not the case of the time of the deadly crash. Quote, "In this instance, this was a training mission, so there was no compelling national security reason for ADS-B to be turned off," he told the Times following a closed-door briefing on the investigation into the crash with the Federal Aviation Administration and National Transportation Safety Board. The Army would not confirm Cruz's claims about the tracking system to the Times. Quote, "We are not going to let the investigation play out and not get ahead of the NTSB findings," Colonel Roger Cavanis, an Army spokesman, told the outlet. Crews retrieved the mangled remains of the Army helicopter from the depths of the Potomac River. Days earlier, authorities also confirmed that the Black Hawk helicopter was in fact flying 100 feet above the limit for helicopters in commercial airspace. So that raises obviously a lot of questions. Why were you flying so high? It was flying at 300 feet, but the maximum altitude permitted for choppers in the area is 200 feet. So why are you 100 feet higher than you're supposed to? Black Doc's data recovered from the wreckage in the Potomac River had indicated that this situation likely occurred, but the National Transport Safety Board was waiting on the air traffic control data to confirm the high altitude. Yikes. Meanwhile, the passenger plane was at 325 feet at the time of the crash and had been cleared to land. In a split second before the crash, the plane's pilot made an effort to jerk the aircraft upwards in an effort to avoid the oncoming helicopter. Why wasn't the helicopter the one to make an effort? Like, helicopters can move much, much quicker than those big commercial airlines. It's a little strange to me that there's no report of the helicopter making what seems to be any effort in avoiding the plane. There were no survivors on either flight, and all 67 bodies have now been retrieved from the water. And obviously that's not a good thing, but I'm glad that the families are going to be able to retrieve their loved ones' bodies and have closure. This TikTok user goes by the name of Flying Lizard. She had posted this the day after the crash on the 30th of January.
If you woke up today to the news about the plane crash, like me, I'm here to explain to you a little bit about what is going on. I'm a legally licensed pilot who has flown under both visual flight rules and instrument flight rules, which are the two different things that are involved in this situation, since it's a mid-air collision between a VFR aircraft, the helicopter, and an IFR aircraft, the CRJ. And I'm here to explain this to you in a way that is comprehensible, because the news you're not an aviation professional, so what the news is telling you is not going to be 100% accurate. Now, I want to start off by saying I am not a professional, okay? I'm just an experienced pilot, okay? I just have experience flying under both VFR and IFR. I'm not claiming to be a professional, and I'm also not claiming that anything that I say in this video is factual. This is just my personal analysis from my experience. Okay, cool. So let's start with visual flight rules. Visual flight rules, VFR, that is when you are flying by sight. You are flying by looking outside for traffic and voiding, seeing and avoiding. That is a very important term. Instrument flight rules, which are IFR, that is what the CRJ was flying under. Your head is inside the cockpit. You're flying by reference to instruments alone, so you're not looking outside. Your head is inside of the cockpit, and you are using things such as the transponder, the ADS-B, and such to figure out your position in accordance to relative aircraft in the area. And it is also, you are a priority for ATC. You are ATC's priority. IFR comes before VFR. Now, there's a few things that we're dealing with here. We have an Army Black Hawk, which was supposedly conducting a training flight. So, as somebody who lives near an NAS, a Naval Air Station, and also many Class Delta airports, and also is constantly chronically online with Flight Radar 24, I have noticed a lot of helicopter training happens at night. And what they will do is they will fly up and down waterways. At least in my area. I don't live anywhere near DC, but that is something that happens here. And usually when military are conducting training flights, they turn their transponder off, which, now, if you remember what I said before, if you're flying IFR, you're relying on those transponders to figure out where you are in relation to other aircraft in the area. So if the helicopter did not have its transponder on, then, this is an if, because this is all alleged, I don't know, this is all my own speculation about what's going on here, okay? If the Black Hawk allegedly had its transponder off, that means the CRJ would genuinely have no way of seeing it. Especially if it was coming from behind, like I'm seeing all of the videos and stuff. So in my humble opinion, just from what I've seen and in my training and in my experience, I think the helicopter was at fault here. Allegedly. Now, some other things we need to worry about. You can hear on ATC asks the Black Hawk if they have the CRJ in sight, and they reply with the affirmative. So that means the Black Hawk had to have seen somebody. Whether that was actually the right CRJ or some other plane, that's yet to be determined. We don't know. But they did have some traffic in sight. And when you're flying VFR, because, like I said, they were using night vision goggles, so that automatically implies that they were flying by visual reference. They were not necessarily flying with their heads solely in the cockpit, because that would be IFR. If you are flying by VFR, you need to see and avoid IFR traffic. That is in the law book, okay? That is in the FAR AIM. It's the aeronautical law book. That's your job as a VFR pilot, is to see and avoid instrument traffic. Now, potential fault number 2 is the whole right-of-way thing. Now, a lot of people, especially even, like, think about it, when you're driving a car and you come to a 4-way stop, you sit there and you're like, where's everybody going? The right-of-way thing is something, for some reason, that never sticks in anybody's head. I don't know why. Now, for aviation, right-of-way means the aircraft that is coming from the right, or the aircraft that is the least maneuverable, has the right-of-way over any other aircraft. Now, let's think about it logically. If you have a helicopter, they have much more maneuverability compared to a fixed-wing regional jet, right? The regional jet can't go backwards. It can only climb and descend at a certain rate. It can really kind of just, especially if it's 500 feet above, which that's what it was 500 feet above touchdown. It can only, it can only fix its course in, like, a matter of time. You know what I'm saying? A helicopter can switch their direction of course like that. They can go up, down, side, up, backwards. Like, helicopters are so maneuverable. So with that being said, because the fixed-wing aircraft, in this case it was a CRJ, was the least maneuverable of the two aircraft on a collision course for each other, that means that the helicopter would have had to have been the one to see and avoid and move out of the way and give the CRJ the right of way.
I will leave her TikTok link down below if you want to go check it out yourself. Now, I kid you not, maybe a half hour ago, Daily Mail also released more information about another plane coming down. I believe there has been at least 6 in the United States within the past, I think, month or so. And Daily Mail just came out and released this. I'll share with you as well. Okay, this one isn't deemed a plane crash yet. Maybe. Plane carrying 10 people vanishes over Alaska. Everyone in the comments is pretty much thinking the same thing. This is getting really suspicious. What is going on with aviation? Why are you filming instead of helping? This is truly alarming, hoping for the safe return of everyone on board. I have the same questions. What is going on? Lastly, we have this plane crash in Brazil. I don't believe I'm saying this right, but Sao Paulo, Sao Paulo, Brazil. Shocking footage shows the aftermath of the small plane crash in Sao Paulo, Brazil that killed 2 and injured 6. This was just posted 2 hours ago. This is a developing story. So let me see if I can find. I did find a quick article about this plane crash in Brazil. However, it's a developing story, so it's going to take some time for more information and how and why this happened again. 2 people died and 6 others were injured when a small plane crashed into a bus on a busy Sao Paulo Avenue in Brazil on Friday morning. The plane crashed on São Vicente, I can't pronounce it, Avenue and then hit the bus. Luckily, it doesn't seem like anybody on the bus was injured. It seemed like the 2 people who passed away were possibly the pilots, because it does say that it was a small plane. We'll get more information about that plane crash again as the story develops. So anything that I talked about today, please let me know what you guys think down below, and I will see you in my next one.